The movie begins in 1976, Spain. New convicts, big-time thieves, robbers, and dangerous murderers are brought to a specially secured prison. Among the countless inmates, we see Manuel, our main character. Manuel looks decent and educated. So why is he in jail? We'll find that out later. Next scene, Manuel's sitting inside his cell. He sees a 16 or 17-year-old kid crying next to him. Manuel goes over, offers him a cigarette, and asks his name. Just then, the warden storms in and starts beating the kid. Manuel feels awful and protests, so the warden slaps him and drags the kid away. After that, all the inmates, including Manuel, are taken for a strip search. They're checking for contagious diseases. Plus, new inmates in Spanish prisons get quarantined for 14 days to check for other illnesses. During the search, a senior officer, Domingo, takes a liking to Manuel's suit. He offers 250 euros, but Manuel refuses to sell it. Manuel's refusal pisses Domingo off, but he leaves quietly. A guard tells Manuel he screwed up, and Domingo will just take the suit by force. He also says if Manuel had sold it, he could have bought anything he needed inside the prison. After the search, Manuel gets a small, dirty, dark room with a stinky blanket and half a bucket of nasty water for 14 days to drink and bathe. Manuel can't figure out if he should drink it, bathe, or use it for the toilet. At night, Manuel sleeps under the blanket, but suddenly wakes up with bites. He sees bed bugs crawling all over him, sucking his blood. The next morning, Domingo comes to check on the inmates. When he gets to Manuel, Manuel starts complaining. Manuel says he desperately needs a shower because he smells awful from the dirty blanket and bed bugs. Hearing this, Domingo starts cussing at Manuel. Then a guy named Blackie comes to deliver food. Blackie's a friendly guy who easily makes friends, and his job is to deliver food to all the inmates. Blackie secretly slips Manuel a cigarette with his food. The next day, a public defender visits Manuel. We find out Manuel's company sued him for fraud. Manuel was a manager at a big company. He stole a huge amount of money with the owner's son, but they got caught. The owner's son saved himself and totally framed Manuel. He could get 8 years for this fraud. Manuel, disheartened by the lawyer's lack of positive response, goes back to his cell. In a fit of rage, Manuel grabs the dirty water bucket and smashes it against the wall, taking out his anger. A guard comes running because of the noise. Manuel says he wants to complain to the prison authorities about how inmates are suffering with food and clothes. Surprisingly, the guard agrees and gives him a pen and paper. Manuel still doesn't know what's about to hit him. As soon as he sits down to write, the guard starts beating him. After the beating, Manuel realizes complaining here is useless. It's a brutal regime. Suddenly, Manuel sees a cigarette, then a note come from a corner of the wall. The note says, "Don't lose hope, friend, we got your back." That little note fills Manuel with immense courage. After 14 days, Manuel is moved from the quarantine cell to a regular cell with other inmates. Manuel gets put in the cell with Blackie and another inmate named Pino. The next morning, Manuel's sitting when suddenly some inmates jump him, beat him, strip off his clothes, and leave. Two guards watch from a distance, but don't stop them. Manuel can't figure out why this happened or why the guards did nothing. He goes to complain, shirtless, and the guard at the counter demands $300, saying it's prison policy to complain. Manuel finally understands this prison is a tyranny and complaining is useless. Then an inmate comes, understands his situation, and takes him to the doctor's room, giving him clothes. At this point, Manuel learns this is the guy who gave him the cigarette and note in quarantine. Then he sees Boney, the prison doctor. Manuel's teeth hurt from the beating, so Boney gives him a painkiller shot. Soon, other inmates come to see him, including Agustin. Agustin offers Manuel to join their secret group because he's noticed Manuel's courage. Agustin says he's forming a committee of brave inmates to protest the injustices against them. Since Manuel's new to prison, he doesn't know much about these things, so he wants to stay out of it for now. The next morning, Blackie takes Manuel to the workshop, hoping he can snag a job and make some money. Agustin opens the workshop door and says there are no jobs right now. Disappointed, they head back. We learn about Blackie's prison history. Blackie himself ended up in this special prison for thieves and robbers because he got caught stealing. Besides stealing, he's also accused of murder because he killed 3 people, including a cop, while escaping after a robbery. If Blackie's found guilty after his hearing, he'll face the death penalty. Next, a girl named Lucy comes to visit Manuel. Lucy is Manuel's girlfriend's younger sister. We find out Lucy's sister broke up with Manuel after he got framed for theft. But Lucy liked Manuel herself, so she came to see him. Manuel tells Lucy not to come to prison and leaves, but he doesn't understand Lucy's feelings. One day, Manuel sees inmates protesting because they're being treated so harshly. Manuel spots Dr. Boney and rushes to him. Boney pretends to examine Manuel's teeth in front of the police and secretly slips him some paper scraps. We'll find out what these papers are later. The next morning, some inmates are released due to the previous day's protest. These inmates were all involved in politics. A year passes in Manuel's prison life. Suddenly, some guards take Blackie away. When Pino asks the guards, he learns that Blackie, who delivered food to everyone, used that opportunity to dig a tunnel in the kitchen for a long time. The next morning, the prison atmosphere is tense. As Pino and Manuel leave their cell, a senior guard tells them Blackie died of a heart attack during the investigation. Manuel is shocked. He feels terrible about it. He then leaves the room and sees Dr. Boney and some other inmates protesting, demanding to know the cause of Blackie's death. Suddenly, the police riot charge them, and an idea sparks in Manuel's head. He rushes into his room, pulls out the papers Dr. Boney secretly gave him. He throws some papers to the protesting inmates downstairs from the second floor. He throws the rest of the papers outside through the small window of his cell. This makes the city residents somewhat aware of the prison situation, and they start chanting slogans in support of the inmates from outside. The warden learns about Manuel's actions and sends guards to take him away. He's then locked back in the quarantine cell, so he can't incite the inmates to protest. One morning, a private lawyer named Harold comes to see Manuel. Manuel tells him he doesn't have money to fight the case. Harold says he'll fight pro bono because he's working for inmates' democratic rights. Harold arranges for Manuel to be released from the quarantine cell and gives him some money so Manuel can write a complaint letter to the authorities about the current prison situation. At night, while Manuel's writing the letter, he suddenly hears a noise and leaves his room. He sees guards tying someone up and taking him somewhere. Manuel starts screaming, but Pino covers his mouth from behind and says, if the guards find out Manuel's screaming, they'll take him too and won't let him live. In the morning, Pino and Manuel hear a commotion outside and leave their room, only to find out Agustin disappeared overnight. Inmates knew why Agustin was removed. Basically, Agustin used to raise awareness and educate inmates about their rights and fair treatment, which the warden hated. The warden ran this prison by his own rules, and no one dared to speak against him. But Agustin often talked about the warden's tyranny to everyone. Manuel sees Dr. Boney and other inmates intensifying their protest by cutting their own hands. Manuel doesn't wait, cuts his hand, and joins them. The protest slowly turns into a rebellion. Inmates threatens to commit suicide, so the warden comes to handle the situation and asks about their demands. Dr. Boney and Manuel represent the inmates. They ask the warden to arrange for a good doctor for treatment and a press meeting. Seeing the situation worsen, the warden doesn't dare to say or do anything and quietly fulfills their demands. At the press meeting, Dr. Boney and Manuel talk about all the injustice and oppression in the prison. The next day, their news is broadcast on the radio, and the inmates think maybe now the whole country will know about their suffering and they'll get some relief. The next morning, Lucy visits Manuel again. By now, they've become quite close, and Manuel has started liking Lucy too. Lucy shows him a newspaper clipping saying the prison situation is being discussed all over the country. Everyone's praising Manuel because of his picture in the newspaper. Lucy's eyes also show joy. Next scene, people from different parts of the country are protesting in front of the prison, supporting the inmates. Pino says he'll also fight for inmates' fair rights, but they need some dangerous people to lead this. Pino takes Manuel and Dr. Boney to the opposite side of the prison, where dangerous inmates are kept. The leader of this section, Michael, sold liquor and cigarettes throughout the prison. Pino came to shake hands with Michael to get his support for their movement. Pino knew Michael wasn't an easy guy who'd agree just by asking. He pulls out a ring from his pocket, gives it to Michael, and tells him Domingo killed his son. He tells Michael this because Michael had been looking for his son Agustin's killers for a long time, but had no proof. Agustin was the guy who worked in the workshop and was Michael's son. Pino bought this ring from the people who killed Agustin. Despite saying all this, Pino can't convince Michael and leaves. Michael looks closely at the ring and realizes it's his son's ring. Michael changes his mind. The next morning, an inmate starts acting like he's having an epileptic seizure. A guard comes to check on him, and the inmate holds a knife to the guard's throat and goes straight to the prison counter. Pino is with the inmate. They all tell the guard to remove all prison barricades. The guard panics and starts calling the control room, but some inmates set the counter on fire. All inmates start throwing their belongings outside their rooms. They gather more items and set them them on fire. Meanwhile, Manuel and some inmates climb onto the prison roof. Everyone protests to change the prison situation. The police can't control the situation at all. On the other hand, city residents also start chanting slogans in support of the inmates to strengthen their protest. Next scene, the warden calls lawyer Harold to reason with the inmates. The inmates have barricaded themselves out of fear of the warden. Harold starts explaining that he's trying his best to establish justice for them. He says the warden will never bother them again or try to impose his tyranny on them. Harold says the warden has agreed to all their conditions, so all inmates should come down from the roof. As Boney and Manuel calm all the inmates, the warden shows his true colors. He immediately attacks the inmates. Next, the warden calls Manuel and tells him he'll be moved to another prison. He says Manuel will have a better environment there, and if his behavior improves, his sentence might even be reduced. The warden shows him a paper with Boney's signature. The warden says Boney agreed to go to that other prison and sign for it. Boney will leave for that prison tomorrow morning. The warden gives Manuel time to think, but Manuel doesn't want to leave everyone. The next morning, Boney is seen leaving with his bags and the police. When all the inmates learn Manuel refused to go to the other prison, they start giving him their valuable belongings as gifts. Among the gifts was Manuel's suit that was taken from him. Next, Lucy comes to visit Manuel. By now, they've grown quite close, and Manuel has started liking Lucy too. At night, some guards suddenly blindfold Manuel and Pino and take them away. This was done to move them to another prison, so they couldn't lead other inmates. The prison they're brought to is freezing, and Pino and Manuel are wearing thin clothes. A few moments later, some guards come and throw powder all over Manuel, then brutally beat him. As he's taken to the quarantine cell, he sees Pino, who has also been beaten. Manuel does something strange at this point. He intentionally swallows a piece of iron. Because of this, when he's taken to the doctor for surgery, he demands that he won't have the operation until Pino is treated. The doctor is forced to agree. When Pino is brought for treatment, his physical condition is terrible. Both of them are treated after that. A few days later, Pino and Manuel both recover. During discussions with the inmates, Manuel learns that a new director has been appointed to monitor all prisons in the country. Everyone decides that when the director visits the prison, Manuel will be sent to speak on behalf of all the inmates. The day the director visits the prison, Manuel sits down with him. He highlights all the inmates' difficulties and the injustices they face. The director assures them that these things will change once new laws are passed in Parliament, and the inmates won't be oppressed like before. However, he sends Manuel and Pino back to the Barcelona prison since they were forcibly removed from there. All the inmates are very happy to have Manuel and Pino back in the old prison. Then comes the day everyone was waiting for. Though new laws for inmates in prison were supposed to be passed in Parliament that day, unfortunately, the laws aren't passed. As a result, all the inmates get disheartened and accept their fate. Manuel is sitting when a guard comes and starts mocking the appeal made by the inmates. Manuel gets furious and attacks the guard. Because of this offense, Manuel is again locked in the quarantine cell. A few days later, Pino comes and brings Manuel out of there. Pino tells Manuel that since all hope is lost, they'll make one last attempt. The next day, Pino takes Manuel to a long-closed cell on the opposite side of the prison. There's also a broken elevator there. Time passes, and it's now 1978. Pino and Manuel plan to dig the ground under the elevator in that opposite part of the prison. Only by digging a tunnel here can they escape this prison and save their lives. Manuel and Pino start brainstorming what to do. Together, they pick some trustworthy people inside the prison and form a team. They need to finish digging the tunnel quickly because the prison authorities are planning to demolish this section and build a new building, and construction will start in 21 days, so they only have 21 days to complete their work and escape. If they don't finish in time, they won't be able to escape. Then one day, lawyer Harold comes to see Manuel. Harold assures him that his case will go to court soon, but Manuel knows these are just false promises, so he doesn't pay much attention to Harold's words. Meanwhile, the digging is almost done. Manuel finds a wall inside the ground. On the other side of this wall is the city's drainage system, which spreads throughout the city's alleys. If they can break this wall and enter the drain, they can follow the drain and exit from any manhole in the city. The next morning, Manuel and Pino take a small bundle of necessary items and, along with their team members, set off to escape through the tunnel. Seeing so many inmates going to the opposite side of the prison at once, other inmates also start following them. Seeing this, the duty guard closes the gate. By then, Manuel, Pino, and several other inmates had already crossed the gate. They tie up the guard, take him with them to the tunnel, release him, and quickly escape through the tunnel. Then, as they go, Manuel and Pino eventually emerge through a manhole onto a street. On the other side, the guards catch other inmates who were trying to escape. Manuel and Pino quickly reach a bus stop and get on a bus. Meanwhile, they had changed their clothes, so they blended in with other pedestrians without any trouble. Then Manuel and Pino get off at the next bus stop and go their separate ways. Manuel notices that Pino had secretly put some money in his shirt fold to help him escape far from the city. Finally, Finally, Manuel and Pino successfully escape from this hellhole prison. Manuel goes straight to Lucy's place. Lucy is very happy to see Manuel, and they decide to spend the rest of their lives together. And that's where the movie ends. So how did you like the video? Let me know in the comments. Also, if you're watching a video on my channel for the first time, or if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe and support me. Stay well, stay healthy. See you in the next video.